Okay, we are live.
Welcome to the U.S. Grassroots Beef page. We are with Matt Innis, a Senate hopeful candidate from Nebraska, and then also Scyller Borglum, a Senate hopeful for South Dakota. We tried to go live earlier today without much success, so we decided that we would just bring you the recorded version. My name is Adam Jones. I'm a cattle rancher in St. Francis, Kansas, where I own Crooked Angus. And as you may know, we have a lot of issues that are facing the cattle industry right now. And today with me, my co-host is Carrie Crampton. We'd like to talk through some of those issues today and then also find out about the Senate candidate positions on those issues. Carrie, if you could take a moment and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Carrie Crampton. I am an admin of the U.S. Grassroots page as well as the Cattlemen and Cattlewomen's page. My passion really came from being in this industry. My husband and I have cow pairs and we farm as well with 2 little boys. We are 4th generation ranchers, and I just really wanted us to have a voice again because I felt our organizations were not representing us, and there was so many cattlemen hurting. Our prices were not where they should have been. Many of us were having to make huge financial risks and decisions, and so this group, this grassroots group grew, and I've just been so blessed by the people I've met all over the United States, producers that I talk to daily, that are just like, keep fighting, and standing with me on this. And so when Matt Innis and Scyller Borglum kind of came into the picture, I just saw them taking a really hard stand for the same issues. And so we wanted to use this opportunity for them to share their platform. And that's really what this is about, just for other people to hear about them and support these candidates that we feel are standing for mandatory country of origin labeling and some of the things that the U.S. grassroots cattlemen and women want, as well as going to benefit the consumer. So with that, that's a little bit about me. I will go ahead and, sorry, I didn't know if Adam, I'll go ahead and let Matt Innis tell a little bit about his campaign, a little bit about himself and how he got involved with this as well.
Well, I'm Matt Innis. I'm a father of 4, been married 27 years. And if you would have asked me when I got in this race, what my #1 issue would be, I would never have dreamt it would have been mandatory country of origin labeling. As I started driving across Nebraska and meeting with ranchers, it was clear that that was a big issue. And so I took the time to educate myself and go through everything that happened in the year 2015 with the World Trade Organization, Mexico and Canada, and of course, a very, very weak president in Barack Obama. And unfortunately, I found out that the very person I'm running against co-sponsored the removal of mandatory country of origin labeling for Barack Obama and the World Trade Organization. And that has been a very hurtful thing in the state of Nebraska and throughout the United States with ranchers. We've seen a lot of the cattle pricing just plummet during this time. We've seen foreign countries and foreign organizations, packers, get involved and mask themselves as U.S. packers in the U.S. We've seen the market manipulation. We've seen the failure of enforcing antitrust laws. It's been something that is shocking to me that it's been allowed to go on as long as it has. My wife, who does a lot with dogs, pointed out to me early on that the dog food that comes into the U.S. has country of origin labeling on it, and dog toys, your t-shirts. But for some reason, they thought it was a brilliant idea to take it off something that all of us eat, almost all of us eat every single day, and that's our beef. And so early on, I was threatened by a very large organization that it would be wise of me to not make this an issue. And usually when I'm threatened by an organization, I realize, hey, maybe I need to make it an issue. So I've made it an issue. Nobody's whacked me yet, so I'm going to keep making it an issue. And I think it's something that's very important. Unfortunately, so many representatives in this country have their silence purchased by PACs, lobbyists, and groups. And it's important that when you run for office, that the only people that you are bought off by are the people you represent in your state. And unfortunately, that just doesn't happen anymore.
I appreciate that, Matt. And I agree. I'm just like shaking my head yes, because on the producer side of things, we were told by our organizations that consumer is king and they don't care. They're they're budget shopping, that the typical housewife is on a budget. And I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, like me as a mom, I want to give my kids the best food I can. And the consumers are paying record prices for their beef right now. So there's a problem when we as cattle producers are not making any money. The packers are making anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 per head, owning those animals for less than a week. And we can't afford to have that happen anymore. You know, I've talked about how this is not only a national food security issue, this is a national security issue. And I just want Scyller to touch on a little of that too, because I know she's been really passionate about our national security as well.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you to everyone who's participating in this. I know how valuable everyone's time is, and to get the word out to everyone who isn't in the cattle industry, I think is the next big step change for all of us. Everyone in the cattle industry has been well aware of these problems for quite some time, but it's been a bit before people like me and Matt, who maybe aren't as familiar with it, to understand some of the intricacies and what's going on and what's at stake. I'm an engineer. I live in Rapid City, South Dakota with my husband and family, and we've only been married about 1.5 years. So I am incredibly blessed. I had been working in a rock mechanics lab and fell in love with my husband. And so he brought with him 2 bonus children, and I love them to pieces as well. So none of us are from the cattle industry or the farming industry, but that doesn't mean we don't want good food and safe food. And I think that's what's really at stake here. A large portion of my family is military. So when Carrie talked about national security, that really resonates with this message for me. We not only have had the light really shown on issues and fractures and vulnerabilities in our food security processes because of COVID-19, but I think Americans in general are now waking up to what it means to have foreign entities owning our land and our businesses and our food. So just this morning, Reuters published an article talking about how China was shipping back record amounts of pork, for example, to feed their people. Well, food security is part of national security. And just like we wouldn't outsource our defense to Russia, or our military defense, or our cybersecurity to North Korea, we are fools for outsourcing our food to China and Brazil and any other country. Namibia, for example, importing cattle from there. So from an outsider's perspective, when I look at the fact that we have cattle producers who are following the rules and doing everything that they're supposed to do, producing the highest possible quality beef, they can't sell it, so they're, quote, depopulating along with our hog farmers. But then we're still importing meat from other countries. How? And then consumers still can't seem to get food in the grocery stores. What the heck is going on? And our current senator in South Dakota, the one that I'm challenging, has been a tremendous supporter of a program called EB-5. That's an expedited business visa. That's a 5th preference, meaning it's designed specifically for rural areas. Well, here's why this should scare the heck out of everybody. China knows that they have only a fraction of the arable land that we do in the United States. Of the fraction of land that they have, 40% is already made unusable due to pollution, acidification, and soil infertility. So if you give them a chance to come into this country and buy their visa, like our senator is doing with his EB-5 visa program, what do you think they're going to do? Of course they're going to come in and buy everything they can, and then, as I mentioned, ship it right back to China. Because why? Their government at least understands what food security means for their people. Our lawmakers are either asleep at the switch or actively inviting this bloodless invasion into our country and on our soil. So when I look at this issue, I used to just be frustrated, and now I'm flat out terrified for what I see is very real and very urgent. And we have time, we can fix this, but we don't have the luxury of a lot of time. So we need to get people voted in like Matt, myself. There's a wonderful woman running for Congress in my state, people who have not been bought off. You can check our FEC reports. You will see that some of us have very small FEC reports. And you know what? To that I say good. because that means when I go to DC, the voices I'm representing are the voices of South Dakota and the people who've asked for my help. I will also point out, Matt touched on this a little bit, when you're listening to these incumbents, and I've noticed this with the one in my state, Mike Rounds, they will talk about everything except the 800-pound steer in the room, which is mandatory country of origin labeling and our cattle producers. That's awfully quiet. So the voluntary program that my senator brought back, we know that doesn't work. It didn't work 10 years ago, and it isn't going to work now. So let's actually start talking about what consumers want and not pet projects of senators who've received substantial funding from outside sources that have nothing to do with the people they're supposed to represent.
I love what you said, and that's what we need. We need people representing us that are representing the constituents of their state, not the big money who's paying into their campaigns. And I definitely have felt that that we've had senators not taking a stand in Kansas, and they don't even want to talk about mandatory country of origin labeling. Like, it can't even be a topic of discussion. And those that want to reroute to voluntary country of origin labeling, that's basically what we have. We have the product of USA on our beef right now, and it's coming from up to more than 20 different countries, and it could be coming from 100 different animals. And I don't think consumers are okay with that. I think it's very deceptive. I don't want to go buy my ground beef knowing that it could be coming from 20 different countries and 100 different animals. I love knowing that what I'm eating came off my ranch or my family's ranch, or I know exactly where it came from. We treat our animals with animal husbandry, and the pride that we take in providing the best beef in the world is real. We pour so much. I know Adam can probably say, how many hours have you devoted, Adam, to the genetics in your cattle to raise the best beef? We have everything invested in this. And I always say, those that pour back into agriculture, like, trust us, we're going to invest back into rural communities. We're going to upgrade our feedlots. We're going to upgrade our pens. We're going to buy the best cattle that we can. But when we start getting financially just strained, there's not a lot of options. And then that money is not only leaving rural America, but when we have 2 foreign entities controlling 80% of the beef processed in the United States, our money is going to foreign countries. And like Scyller said, it's communist countries too. This isn't just foreign entities like an American business. No, we're dealing with government officials sitting on the boards of these organizations. And I mentioned earlier, I know on this page I've shared some, that 30 million acres, they're saying, of prime farmland is owned by foreign companies. And if we continue down that road, that's never going to come back to be domestic ownership. And that's my fear. And that's where, when we start talking, like, once we lose the American farmers and ranchers, which are declining at an alarming rate, we will never go back. You can't rebuild this in a night. This is legacy. This is heritage. We worked so hard because our ancestors did the same things we did. We've learned from them. We are the best in the world when it comes to agriculture and agriculture production. Many people have tried to duplicate what we have in the beef industry in other countries, and they can't do it. And one, it's the work ethic, even, they say. You know, they can't even get the work ethic. And so that's where the patriotism and that kind of comes from. But Adam, did you want to share anything on top of that, or go into?
You know, it's been a lot of fun for us to see the consumers be able to become more engaged in these issues. These are not just cattle producers like myself issues. These are U.S. consumers, Americans. This matters to you. And one of the things that's happened, you know, these are issues that cattle industry have had individuals that fought this for 40 plus years. There are some old lions that have been battling this, but social media is what is allowing us to finally talk directly to U.S. beef consumers. And so I think it's really important for us to make sure that those consumers are being listened to, and that we're also presenting them with why this is important. And one of the reasons that this is important is that most cattle are produced in rural areas. That probably makes sense to everyone. And rural communities are dying. My home community has about 2,600 people. Since the 1950s, that area has started to have lower people every single year. I think it's important, while I've got 2 full Senate candidates in front of me, to ask what are they going to help do for rural parts of their states, and also kind of tell about how this cattle industry is important for not just those rural communities, but also for urban areas. Matt, if you can go ahead and take that.
Yeah, well, you know, like I've said before, the number one thing that has to be done is we have to bring back mandatory country of origin labeling. Number one thing we have to do. We have to enforce antitrust laws, and that just has to be done. And third, you know, we have to get foreign countries out of the US packing industry. They're manipulating it, they're manipulating the prices. And you know, when you see a rancher losing money on every head of cattle and the packers making between $600 and $1,600 a head, well, something's wrong there. And something's really wrong when you have a $2.2 trillion bailout during the COVID-19 issue, and the packers are getting the money and the ranchers are getting, well, the shaft. They're not getting anything out of it. And that's just sad, and that's got to stop. In Nebraska, we actually have more farm counties than any other state in the country. We have 48,000 family farms, but we also lead the country in more bankruptcies when it comes to agriculture. We have 3.5 million acres of land that has been purchased by foreign countries. And that just can't be allowed. We need to protect the family farm. We need to help the ranchers and farmers out. You know, everywhere I've gone, I've never heard one rancher or farmer say to me, they want a bailout or they want money from the government. All they want is a level playing field, something they haven't been given, and they deserve to have it. This is our food supply. I mean, Scyller brought this up. This is our food supply. You know, it's national security when it comes to our food supply. And I think with this COVID-19, a lot of things have been exposed. You know, do we want China controlling our food supply? Do we want them right now where they're controlling our pharmaceuticals? Do we want them doing that? You know, so many industries we're relying on them that we need to bring back to the US. You know, the big threat with removing country of origin labeling in 2015 was that if we didn't remove it, our meat pricing would skyrocket. Well, what happened? They removed it. They brought in all the foreign meat. They made you think it was US meat by putting a 100% USDA stamp on it. And then they still jacked the prices up. And they're going to use this crisis again to jack the prices up again. And you need people that aren't bought off, that can sit there and speak about this nationally, that aren't fearful of any retaliation.
And that's what's happened for years, is even in the cattle industry side of things, or your feedlots, they do. I talk to people all the time. They're scared of retaliation, because if these buyers from these large packing plants don't come buy the cattle that are in the feedlot, that's a big problem. And I've just decided, you know what, I'm done with worrying about retaliation. If we don't do something, we are going to lose this country. And we're already headed down that road of losing producers. And like you say, it is a national security issue. And what most people don't understand is that you can go look at the poultry and the pork industry. They've all been vertically integrated. The beef is the final protein source, has not been vertically integrated. And yes, we still have small farmers, but there's not a hog market anymore like it used to be. And those of us that are seeing that pressure to vertically integrate, we realize we can't afford to let that happen, because then you become a slave to your industry. And once again, if you have foreign entities controlling the slaves, that's a massive problem. And I always want people to realize that cattlemen and women and ranchers and farmers are probably some of the brightest business people that you will ever meet. And I think sometimes people say, oh, they don't know, they shouldn't make these decisions for trade and whatnot. You guys, we wouldn't still be operating if we weren't great businessmen and women. It is very complicated for the amount of money that we're making on our cattle. How would you guys, you know, I think of industries, if you got paid less than what you got paid in the, you know, the 80s for cattle and still make your business up, you know, keep it afloat. I just, it amazes me. And I feel like we have so much support with the consumers, and it's really just been a bunch of lies thrown at us to kind of keep us in our place. And our voices are rising up. And like you said, Matt, the pharmaceutical industry oftentimes mirrors what's going on here too. They've used their own tax. We pay a $1 beef checkoff tax, and they've used it against us. And it's a serious problem. Scyller, I'm going to let you go ahead and add on anything from what Matt said.
Certainly. I wanted to address the vertical integration. So I studied business back in the late 90s, and that was the way to do it. It's efficient, it's effective, you get the least cost for the consumer, so it's totally consumer friendly, and that made sense at the time. And as you pointed out, having seen what's happened with the poultry industry and the hog industry, this should just scare everybody to bits, because what it means is the companies own the pork, for example, from piglet to plate. right? Which means that you can have Americans going hungry. You can have hogs being raised right here in South Dakota or in Nebraska or in Iowa, and they will be processed and shipped right back to China because that's who actually owns them. What you're seeing with the poultry and the hog industry then is people have been turned from independent, self-reliant farmers and producers to serfs or tenant farmers or sharecroppers, whatever phrase you want to use, where they are beholden to either the king or the company. It doesn't matter. They don't actually own the product anymore, which means they're the ones being dictated to. And if we're going hungry, it doesn't matter. That food is still going to be shipped out anyway. So to answer Adam's question then earlier, how can we continue to involve our rural communities and keep those vibrant? What I see is a tremendous opportunity in breaking up these vertically integrated companies and the packer monopoly and create a decentralized system. It will have some inefficiencies in it. And as we have now learned 20, 30 years later, that actually is to our benefit. So we need custom butchers. We need people who are training in the technical colleges on how to process meat. We need smaller businesses where you can go and take your cattle and know you're going to get a fair price. And for heaven's sakes, we need to stop importing foreign meat when we have so much right here that we can process and sell. So it would take some doing, right? But in my view, if we can start breaking up these behemoths and monolithic entities into smaller groups and distribute them closer to the food source, that will actually provide work and important revenue for our rural communities.
And there's a lot of people that do want to be custom butchers. And I mean, there's a craft and an art to that. What has happened though, is we're processing around 400 animals an hour in some of these huge, massive processing plants, and it's illegal workers working side by side. You guys, that's not good. So we as American people have to make the decision. No, we're not okay with that. We're not okay with for our environment. We're not okay with that, doing that to people. And we're gonna, you know what, even if prices do go up, which I believe consumer prices right now, you're paying an all-time high right now anyways, and you're getting gouged for crap beef at the end of the day. Because a lot of what's in the grocery store, you have no idea where it's coming from. So Adam, I feel like you want to add something. You're smiling.
No, I just wanted to take the opportunity to invite everybody that hasn't. We do have a petition for mandatory country of origin labeling. It is at demandUSAbeef.com. We launched that a couple of weeks ago. Carrie and then Cowboys for Trump, Boyd Griffin, were able to launch that. Last I looked, we were about 370,000 signatures. We are excited with every one of those signatures. I think that allows us an opportunity to go ahead and present that to some legislators. There's also been some talk about maybe we can get that to the current administration as well. One thing that I keep telling everyone is you need to post, you need to tweet, you need to write your letters, you need to talk to your neighbors. And then Scyller the other day when I posted that, so it wrote, you need to vote. And I think she's absolutely right. One thing that the cattle industry has noticed is that we get senators, Republicans, we host their fundraisers, we host their dinners, and then when they get into Washington, they don't do the job for us. So once again, while I've got two potential candidates, what day one are you going to do for cattle producers? What legislation is there out there right now that you support that you think could be a positive impact for not just producers, but then also for beef consumers? Matt, you're up again.
Oh, I'm up first. All right. I think it's obvious the very first piece of legislation that we need to do is mandatory country of origin labeling. And, you know, I give a little history for some people. This was brought on, the removal of this was brought on by the World Trade Organization, Canada and Mexico, thinking that the US was unfair with its trade practices with the beef industry. Other countries were losing money, especially Canada and Mexico. Although I don't know why anybody would want their beef over ours. You know, but that's me. And we had a very weak president. They didn't know what to do when two countries threatened $3 billion in tariffs. Now, we see what a weak president does. He caves to world organizations. And we also see what a strong president does, like with President Trump, where he wanted to change NAFTA. and they threatened tariffs on him. And then he said, okay, fine, I'll do 10 times the tariffs on you. And then I'll close the borders. And if you want to do business in the US, you got to bring your companies to the US. They caved instantly because they need us more than we need them. And that, having a strong president understanding the trade issues in the world is a great combination with a second term for him in bringing back the laws requiring mandatory country of origin labeling. Right now, we're seeing in Nebraska, the state legislature the number of the senators are looking at doing a resolution by the state requiring U.S. beef be labeled U.S. beef and foreign beef be labeled foreign beef. And it's something that will probably end up going through the courts. And a lot of them are having to be educated on this. They were not properly informed with all of this, and they weren't sure what it all meant. But now they know because people are demanding it once they're educated. But I would have to say that that has to be the top priority, is that we have to bring back mandatory country of origin labeling. We have it on everything else that we bring into this country. Like I said, we have it on dog food. It has to be the very first issue that we do when we get into office to bring it back.
Scyller, we'll let you follow.
Absolutely. I second that. There's no reason why we can't bring mandatory country of origin labeling back. I'm a member of RCAF USA and of South Dakota Stock Growers. And the reason is because these are the people who have been working on it so hard for a very long time. And if you hear the name Bill Bullard, then you know who I'm talking about and what he's saying. And what I appreciate about that is they've already done the hard work, and they already have put together a 3-point plan that will allow us to put in place mandatory country of origin labeling without affecting those tariffs and what offended the WTO. So this is where we can have our cake and eat it too. I carried the resolution on the South Dakota legislature state floor. I'm currently a representative out of Rapid City. And I carried the resolution 601 this past session, which urgently requested President Trump renegotiate trade barriers to country of origin labeling, because number one, we know he can do it. There's not a doubt in anyone's mind that he can get this thing done. And what it means is we as a state have come together and said, this is our priority. And I can tell you, this is where so many people are frustrated in South Dakota, because this is not a new priority for South Dakotans. This has been a long time coming. And our current senator, Mike Rounds, was one of the first to vote against it and rescind it. Well, somebody who cares about his people, why didn't he stop and say, okay, we need to reword some things, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. And instead, everyone, they folded like a cheap $2 suit. And it's like, we don't pay you to just go be limp. We pay you to go stand up strong and get this work done for us and come up with an intelligent response, right? So I agree, weak president, and frankly, a very weak decision on the part of our lawmakers, where they could have done the work while they were there. They didn't need to just say, oh, well, yeah, we don't want to offend anybody, so we're just gonna bow down. No, what they should have said was, look, this is a piece that you find offensive or incompatible, fine. Here's a way that satisfies your needs and still gives our American ranchers and producers the labeling that they deserve and the labeling that Americans want. So I'm fully on board, and if Matt and I get elected, by golly, we're gonna beat feet, and
I just wish you guys were in the state of Kansas. I mean, we're excited about some things too. But you guys, thank you. We need people like you just being so bold, and I hope everyone continues to follow your campaign and support you guys. And like you said, RCAF USA, we worked together to roll out that petition, and Bill Bullard is amazing. That guy, he has a plan lined out of how to fix this. And yet we can't get anybody to listen. And it's like, if we can't get the senators or somebody to take that in, or him have a meeting with the president, I mean, we're exhausting all efforts. I wrote an open letter to President Trump. I actually was asked by a campaign manager if I'd write this. He thought he could get it into the hands of the president. I felt it was too long, and I needed to edit it, and so many things had happened. I said, you know what? I feel like it might even be more effective. I'm gonna have it as polished as I can be, but I'm gonna be real and tell my story. So it is a 4-page letter to the president. I get that's probably way too long. It needs to be 1 page for the president. He has a lot on his plate. But I hope every American goes and reads that letter. I have posted it, and I can repost it in the comments on this. But it really tells a story, and I think it'll help the American consumers as well as other producers, as well as those campaigning, to see what exactly is going on, because I really hit on a lot of the things that you guys are, mandatory country of origin labeling and the packer monopoly, and the organizations representing us, and also what we as producers have went through in this last year. It's been ongoing, but this last year has just been devastating to our industry.
Can I jump in?
Oh, yes,
one
yes.
thing real quick? Matt, your election, is it tomorrow?
It's tomorrow.
Okay, so Matt and I are both taking on incumbents, powerful incumbents who have substantial war chests. And if you are watching this video, it means you care. And Matt and I have probably both heard more times than we can count, oh, we had no idea you were running, or okay, now you have. Now you know we're running and you know where we stand. So I'm going to give a shout out to, again, hopefully my future colleague, Matt. Please go vote. Send out a text message chain. Get on your church prayer chain and get those good old ladies calling their little friends and get the word out, because what we lack for in war chest size is we more than make up in heart and conviction for these incredibly important issues that affect our entire country. So please, the election's tomorrow for Matt. Please go support him in every conceivable way. Mine is coming up June 2nd. Again, I'm doing everything I can to get the word out, and the system is built to protect the incumbent in every conceivable way. So this is our time. We've got one chance. We have one chance to get this right and do a sea change of everybody who's in government that's resisted our efforts. Please get the word out. So I just wanted to make sure people knew your election's tomorrow, Matt.
Yes, and yes, please go learn about Matt. Get on, go vote for him. I mean, he's making a hard stand for us, and we just appreciate that. And what Scyller said is completely true. Now is the time for us to change this country, and we better all get out and vote, and we better all do our research, and we better care, or we're going to lose this. It's upon every single American's shoulders right now.
Before we wrap up, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, no, I just wanted to, thank Scyller for that. That means a lot. I mean, you know how it is campaigning against an incumbent, and especially one that in my race has raised more money than anybody in Nebraska for a Senate seat has ever raised before. And he's backed by many, many PACs. But here's the thing. He hasn't shown up anywhere in Nebraska to speak to the people. I've driven almost 50,000 miles since August 1st speaking to the people. And if people want to learn more about me, just go to Matt Innis, the4senate.com, and you can look me up there. And Scyller, good luck on your race.
Thank you. And I'll second that. I have been challenging my opponent, Mike Rounds, to a debate for weeks now, maybe going on a full month since I was put on the ballot, and not a peep. Absolutely not a peep. I have been out with the people, shaking elbows, bumping elbows, visiting on Facebook Lives. I do those frequently on my own Facebook page, and he will only talk about the things that matter to him. Like when he talked about how worried he was about the Packers. Yes, he actually got on live TV 2 weeks ago and said he was worried about the packing industry. And you want to talk about somebody who's completely out of touch with their own population. It's a senator who doesn't understand what's going on with the actual cattle producers. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and welcoming a debate. I agree. Like, why won't they? If they have nothing, if they're truly for us, they should have no problem sitting down and doing a debate with you. And I feel like that's what the American people need. I wish that would happen in our state, to be honest. Them all sit down and answer some really hard questions and take hard stands. Adam?
Just as we wrap up here, want to thank our 2 Senate candidates. It means a lot. I'm sitting here on my ranch in Northwest Kansas. I just made a couple phone calls and found 2 Senate candidates that were willing to sit down, willing to champion the cattle industry.
This literally was today we came together and did this, right? I mean, you guys, that's how real both these candidates are. They were like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, who does that? We're just 2 random people. And I'm just so thankful that they took the time. We had a few complications with technology to wing it, and they're good. They just roll with it. Just great-hearted people.
But also gives us a chance to talk to the consumers that are on our consumer Facebook page.
Yeah.
We need an action alert. what we need you to do. We actually need you to pick up your phones and call your representative. Tell them that you want mandatory country of origin labeling on your beef products. We can give you a script if you need it, but mostly you just need to call and tell your story. Why is it important to you? And then we've presented you with a couple of Senate candidates. Hopefully there's some of you that are from Nebraska that can go out and vote in these primaries. And tomorrow for Matt, June 2nd, I believe Scyller said. And then we can make sure that we get some candidates that are willing to back this industry. Also, if there happens to be any other candidates out there that happen across this video, if you would like to support mandatory country of origin labeling, Carrie and I would love to work with you.
Yeah. And
Anybody
share
else?
this video. Please share this video with others, because that's how we're going to get the word out of the candidates standing up for us. So, Adam?
Any final thoughts from anyone?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Is there anything else that Matt or Scyller, would you guys like to add?
I just want to thank you for inviting us on to do this. This is great. This is how you communicate with people. You put your, you put your words out there and you get held accountable by people. And that's the most important thing. And too many people that run for office hide. They won't do interviews. They won't do debates. They won't even acknowledge anything because they don't want their words put down as record for anything.
Yeah. Agree.
And I would absolutely second what Matt just said. And of course, Carrie and Adam, thank you so much for hosting this. And if there's one leveler in our democracy, it has been shown to be the internet. So share. If you support a candidate, please do that. Please put messages out and say, go, if you're in Nebraska, go vote Matt Innis. If you're in South Dakota, go vote Borglum for United States Senate. And please tell people about it, because not everybody is on Facebook. So if you have neighbors and friends, maybe they're of a certain age where they want nothing to do with Facebook, then go grab them by the shirt collar and tell them that you really have candidates who genuinely care and who are in no way bought off by the big guys. And that's, I think, at the end of the day, how this is going to get done.
Great. Thank you guys so much. I hope we can have you guys back as senators. That will be incredible on this Grassroots page. And it truly is just a grassroots effort. We're just cattlemen and cattle producers. We have no agenda other than to fix our broken markets and fix our country. So thank you so much. And we will, if you guys want to post questions or follow them or ask them questions directly, I'm sure they'd be happy to contact you as well. So thank you, everyone. And with that, I think we'll end this webinar. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.